All right, guys, let's go over how to navigate the grocery store. Going to the grocery store the first time for the T28 challenge can be a little bit intimidating and maybe even a little bit time consuming, but I'm going to give you some tips to save you some time and make it easy for you so that you can be successful throughout the T28 challenge. First, let's go over some tips and strategies for you. Number one, make sure that you plan out your meals for the week, preferably on Sunday, and then make sure that you're scheduling time to go to the grocery store twice per week, as you're not going to be buying food that has a long shelf life. So you're going to need to be going twice a week in order to make sure that food is fresh. Number two, if you can't find it at the grocery store in the T28 shopping guide, well, I have links for you where you can order some of the best sources through Amazon.com. And in today's world, you can get that food and get some of those resources within just a couple of days. Now, when you do go to the grocery store, take your T28 shopping guide with you, take some notes, jot down notes, and make sure that you use that in order to avoid any kind of confusion. Now, when you go to the grocery store, I'm going to go over with you the best sources of carbohydrates. Before I go over that, I want to show you something that will help you decide if a specific carb is going to be good for you or not. And this up here that you see is called the glycemic index. And the glycemic index is an index or a measurement that measures how quickly a food spikes up your blood sugar. Remember, the more it's going to spike up your blood sugar, the more it's going to increase insulin, and the more it's going to be causing fat building versus fat burning. So some of the best sources of carbohydrates are going to have a glycemic index of anywhere from 0 to 40. Now, as you get into the 50s and the 60s, they're not going to be great for you, but you definitely want to avoid any carbohydrates with a glycemic index in the 70s or the 80s or the 90s, all the way up to 100. Now, here's going to be the best sources of carbohydrates that you're going to get from the grocery store. Vegetables, and lots of them. So with vegetables, make sure that when you're preparing them, best to consume them raw or steamed, never boiled, and never microwave. Now, in addition to the vegetables, things like berries and Granny Smith apples are great for snacks. Remember, a medium size Granny Smith apple and a handful of berries as far as your snack is concerned. Now, what about the healthiest sources of fat at the grocery store? Well, you want to go, if you're getting any kind of beef, any kind of fish, or any kind of poultry, you want to make sure that it's grass-fed, free range. You want to get wild-caught fish or Pacific-caught fish. Make sure that your poultry is cage-free or free range. And in addition to that, some of your other sources of fat, you want to choose things like extra virgin coconut oil. This is great for cooking. In addition to that, things like extra virgin olive oil, never heated and used as a finisher for your food. Things like organic almond butter in place of peanut butter. Again, you have your raw and preferably sprouted nuts, things like almonds, things like cashews, things like macadamia nuts, walnuts, Brazilian nuts. These things are great sources of fats and protein. You want to be using butter and not margarine, and prefer that you have grass-fed or pastured butter. And then in addition to that, making sure that you're covering all your bases in getting enough omega-3 fatty acids, and this is why I consume anywhere from 2 to 3 grams of omega-3 fatty acids every single day. And Optimal Omega has not only plant-based sources but animal sources. So when you take 2 of them, you're getting approximately 1,500 to 1,600 milligrams of omega-3 fatty acids. Now, one last thing about protein. When you go to the grocery store in search of the healthiest proteins, a general rule is that if you're consuming the healthy fats, a lot of times the healthy fats are linked with healthy proteins. So if you're consuming, for example, grass-fed beef, then you're also going to be getting healthy sources of protein through that grass-fed beef. One quick note about protein, specifically protein replacement. I'm a huge fan of grass-fed whey protein. This is a great opportunity to get tons of healthy proteins into your body, and specifically when you're doing the T28 challenge and you're exercising, you need to get proteins into your system to help with muscle building. Grass-fed whey protein is great as far as muscle building. It's one of the most bioavailable or readily available proteins that can be absorbed into your body for muscle building. Just make sure that when you're using grass-fed protein, there should be no added sugar. In fact, if it's sweetened, it should be sweetened with stevia, and it should come from concentrate and not isolate. And this is why this grass-fed protein is the best. Now, some people might have a little bit of get a little bit of stomach upset with grass-fed whey protein, and if that is you, no worries. You can also choose the perfect plant protein. The perfect plant protein is also an excellent source of healthy proteins for muscle growth and for repair. All right, guys, let's go over with you the T28 shopping guide. So make sure that you download this and print this off and have that ready when you go to the grocery store for the first time. Included in this shopping guide are some general shopping tips, some additives to avoid at the grocery store. So when you go and you might be reading labels, this will act as your guide to make sure that you're not purchasing anything that has any of these additives in your food. Now, here's your shopping list. So I've included a shopping list of some of the best sources of protein, some best sources of fat, the best sources of high fiber carbohydrates, the best sources of starchy carbohydrates, the best condiments, spices, and seasonings, the best sweeteners, and the best beverages to consume. So if you can't find it at the grocery store, I've included on the side the name of that so that you can be able to order that, for example, on Amazon.com instead of actually going to the grocery store and getting it. Enjoy the T28 shopping guide.